Let's now speak to Labour analyst Andrew Levy. Very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time as we listened to President Ramaphosa speaking about, some of the strides that have been made and the commitments. I mean, he's speaking now in this bite about collective bargaining. Workers are feeling disheartened. They're angry. They're disappointed. What are your thoughts around what the president had to say and that commitment on collective bargaining? How important is it?
Well, I think it's very important, and, we need to put this in the context that we have an election coming up, and obviously the support of the union federations and their recommendation to their members to support the ANC is very, very important, where the outcome is not completely clear. That's the first point. The second point is it's probably true to say that relationships between government and their own employees via the trade unions are at an all-time low. Now, the reasons for that are many and manifest, but that is the situation. So I think what the state president is trying to do is, on the one hand, to make the commitment, saying collective bargaining is the way we will go. Now, frankly, that doesn't say much, because collective bargaining is enshrined in the Constitution. The right to collective bargaining is stated in the constitutional labor rights. And secondly, given that there are existing agreements and, of course, that the unions are strong in the public sector, he has no option. He has to bargain collectively. So that's no major concession. But if you see it in that context, I think we could sensibly say that there is something of an olive branch there. There's something of an olive branch. Whether it's an iron fist in a velvet glove, we don't know yet. Yeah. But the issue simply is, with negotiations going on and the distance between the parties so great, the president is trying to say, let's settle it by talking, let's settle it by negotiation, subscript, don't go on strike.
And we have listened to some of the reaction from the various unions, and they've spoken about how things have not shown the improvement that they need to show. Deterioration, working conditions are at an embarrassing state. What is it going to take from government in terms of commitment and, really showing the effort that things can get better, because workers are fed up, they're angry, and they're saying that state capture and corruption has also played a major role?
Yes, it certainly has. And when it comes to corruption, state capture, we still look with amazement on the lack of action. The evidence is there, it's clear. Why are we not seeing more prosecutions and more publicity around what is going on? And, given that there are huge, huge, huge amounts of money, billions of rands, being taken out of the system, which could, in part, certainly go to fund wage increases, as opposed to have to borrowing money for wage increases, then, not only do workers have a right to be angry about that, I think the citizenry has a right to be angry too. But we do need to remember that the public sector, firstly, is the strongest area of trade unionism, and going forward, that's where their strength will remain. And secondly, that in any event, the workers in the public sector are better paid than anybody else. The median wage in the public sector, in other words, 50% earn more than around about 45,000 rand a month. That is not a starvation wage. Okay, 50% earn less, but if you look at the distribution and you say, well, the median lies 10 times above the national minimum wage, they are not poor workers. However, having said that, everyone wants more. Everyone wants to improve their standard of living. And I think in the speeches we've heard from union leaders, bearing in mind that, of course, on Workers' Day, they've got to show muscle, they've got to show we're carrying the flag, but I think there's no doubt that, again, there's a veiled message there, which is government, you need to come to the party, you need to effectively give us what we want. And the difficulty is government cannot give them what they want. There just isn't enough money.
The perceptions that were raised by the Public Servants Association of South Africa, speaking quite a bit about how workers are seen. They're seen as lazy, but not much understanding and attention is given to how they're overworked, indebted and underpaid. I mean, he also spoke to some concerns around how workers can't even afford to buy houses, and yet, not much attention is being paid to the wage bill and how that can perhaps advance and make a difference in their lives.
Well, on the contrary, I couldn't agree with any of those words. And of course, you need to bear in mind that they come from a union leader. But if we look at it, firstly, they are not that poorly paid. Secondly, whether or not they're overworked is a moot point. But generally speaking, if we look at the administrative delays that we face, so for example, if you have a will and you need to have it probated and approved by the master's office, that can take 2 years and you'll not hear anything. Your passports, well, some of them are faster, some of them are slower. You're quite likely to get an electricity bill for 70,000, 80,000 rand while you've been on holiday. I think the inefficiencies in the public sector are manifold and manifest. Now, whether or not they can afford to buy a house, once again, one would need to see more statistics on the wage distribution. It also depends on the house that you want to buy. But I'm sure that help could be found, if only by making special arrangements to use whatever accumulated pension surplus that members have as a form of collateral for housing loans. That's been done before. But, I certainly couldn't agree that the public sector employees are overworked and underpaid. And I think if you want to see people who are overworked and underpaid, then I think you could look at the metal industry, you could look at the security industry, you could look no further than your own home if you have domestic servants. You could look at agriculture. Those are the employees who live in terrible poverty, who cannot certainly afford a home, and in fact are not always sure where their next meal is coming from. So I think we need to take that with a pinch of salt and say, well, that's a union leader. He's trying to rally the troops and to fire them up. Who's the natural target? The employer. What's the natural subject? We're abused.
Yeah.
Not sure that that's really the case.
Very well. Thank you so much. Thanks for weighing in on this discussion. Labour analyst Andrew Levy speaking there on the back of some of the remarks that have been made by unions, various unions on Workers' Day.